The Good Shepherd and my wife. I never thought I'd be that guy posting on Reddit, especially not in a forum like this, airing out the wreckage of my life for strangers to scroll through. But here I am, because if I don't get this out, I'll lose my mind, or what's left of it. This all happened over the course of a year, but the unraveling the part that tore me apart took maybe 2 months. It started with a phone left face down on the coffee table, and ended with an entire church gasping in unison. Let me back up. I live in a small town in Tennessee, one of those towns where folks wave from their porches and still say sir and ma'am. I've been married to my wife, Kayla, for 11 years. We met in college at a mutual friend's barbecue, hit it off over pulled pork and sweet tea, and never looked back. At least I didn't. We have one son, Mason. He's 7, sweetest kid you'll ever meet, lives for Saturday morning pancakes and anything with dinosaurs. We're not perfect, but I thought we were good. We paid our bills, went to Sunday service, volunteered for food drives, and had the occasional argument about money or chores, but nothing big. Kayla was always the more spiritual one. She led Bible study on Thursdays, organized prayer groups, and helped decorate the church every Easter and Christmas. Me? I'm more of the sit in the back and nod along type, but I believed. I just wasn't flashy about it. Pastor Ethan came to our church about 3 years ago. Young guy, maybe 35, charismatic, clean-cut, spoke with that low, calming voice that made even the driest sermons sound poetic. The women in the congregation loved him. Men liked him too. He had this relatable, cool youth pastor energy, like he'd been through stuff but came out holier on the other side. Kayla was obsessed. Said he reawakened her faith. She started going to extra church events, more late-night planning sessions, more pastoral counseling, more lingering hugs at the end of service. At first, I didn't think anything of it. I was proud of her for finding passion in something that meant a lot to her. But then, the phone thing happened. It was a Tuesday evening. I got home from work early because one of my HVAC jobs got rained out. I walked in and found Kayla in the kitchen, humming while she chopped vegetables. Her phone buzzed, lit up the room from the coffee table. I glanced without meaning to. "Thank you for last night. I can still feel you." From Ethan. My stomach dropped. For a second I told myself there had to be another Ethan. But we don't know any other Ethans. Not personally. Not enough to warrant a message like that. I picked up the phone. Locked. She saw me holding it and froze. I can explain. That was her first line. Not, "What are you doing?" Not, "That's private." Just immediate damage control. The next 2 weeks were hell. I didn't yell. I didn't punch walls. I just shut down. Silent. Numb. I slept on the couch. Barely ate. Went to work, and came home without saying more than 10 words. Eventually, she confessed. Said it started with one-on-one counseling sessions. She was vulnerable. He understood her in ways I didn't. She swore it was emotional at first, but crossed a line a few months back. Claimed they only did it a few times. I didn't believe her. Still don't. The part that shattered me the most? She said she fell in love with him. I kept asking myself, why? Why, Ethan? A pastor, of all people? Someone we trusted? Someone who baptized our son, and gave me marriage advice just months earlier. I tried to keep it quiet at first. I didn't want to ruin Mason's life. Didn't want to be that couple at church. But something in me kept clawing, telling me it wasn't just a personal betrayal. It was deeper. Spiritual betrayal. Community betrayal. The man who preached about loyalty and sin was doing this in secret, and my wife was part of it. I had to know more. So I did what any broken man might do. I asked her for her phone. She hesitated. Said it was over. Said there was no need to relive the pain. But I insisted. I told her I needed the full truth, or I'd never move forward. Reluctantly, she handed it over. I opened her messages with Ethan. It wasn't a fling. It was a relationship. There were "I love you" messages. Talk of God bringing them together. Even plans to leave me once they figured out how to break the news gently. I read every disgusting detail. Where they met. How they'd sneak into his office late at night. The motel halfway between his house and ours. Even code words they used in public. Praying for you meant, "I miss you." Coffee talk meant, "Come over." That night, I sat in the dark with a single lamp on, just scrolling, not crying, not breathing right, just existing. And then something broke in me. I wasn't going to beg her to stay. I wasn't going to co-parent peacefully, while pretending everything was okay. And I sure as hell wasn't going to let Ethan keep preaching every Sunday like he wasn't a lying, manipulative snake. So I made a plan. I screenshotted everything. Every message. Every picture. Every voice note where they whispered sweet nothings, and thanked God for bringing them together. I created a new Gmail, and sent copies to myself. I printed the worst ones and hid them in my truck toolbox. Then I spoke to the only person at church I trusted, Elder Greg, Vietnam Viet. Been part of the church for 40 years. Didn't take crap from anyone. I showed him. He didn't say a word at first, just rubbed his chin and muttered, "Lord have mercy." He asked if I was sure I wanted to go public. Said it would tear the church in two. I told him I wasn't trying to save the church anymore. I was trying to save my son from growing up thinking this kind of betrayal was normal. He nodded. Then, let's do this right. The next Sunday was going to be Youth Appreciation Day. Big service. Packed house. Visiting families. Local newspaper sometimes stops by. I decided that was the day. I rehearsed my speech in my head, over and over. Practiced it while mowing lawns. Rewrote it while eating lunch alone in my truck. It wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. And I was going to let the entire congregation hear it from the source. Their beloved pastor and my two-faced wife. The Sunday sermon no one expected. I didn't sleep the night before. My mind kept ping-ponging between second-guessing myself and imagining the fallout. Kayla was quiet too. She knew I was going to do something, but I hadn't told her what. We hadn't really spoken in a week beyond what Mason needed: meals, school pickups, "Daddy, where's mummy?" kind of stuff. I had already set everything in motion. I'd printed the messages, pages of them, screenshots, dates, timestamps, photos of them together in his office when no one else was around. And the most important thing, a full transcript of one particular voice message Ethan had sent my wife just a few days before I confronted her. The one where he actually laughed about still preaching fire and brimstone while sitting on satin sheets. That one hit different. And I knew that if I was going to do this, it couldn't just be some emotional rant. I needed their own words to speak for themselves. The plan: Sunday morning, I got up early and dressed like any other service day. Blue button-up, clean jeans, my boots polished. I dropped Mason off at my parents' place. I told him Mummy had a big day at church, and Daddy had to help out. He was too young to know what was really coming. The church was already buzzing when I pulled into the gravel lot. Youth Appreciation Day meant lots of balloons, extra folding chairs, and everyone in their best clothes. Potluck tables were already being set up outside. Kayla was inside, standing with the other church mums near the entrance, holding a clipboard like everything was normal. She saw me. I didn't smile. She knew. I walked past her without a word and nodded at Elder Greg, who was waiting at the side of the stage. He gave me a look that said, "Are you sure?" I gave him one that said, "Dead sure." The moment the service started like it always did, praise music, cheerful announcements, clapping. Then Pastor Ethan took the stage. He looked sharp, tan suit, that same soothing tone in his voice as he talked about the importance of integrity and leadership. I kid you not, that was his topic for the day. It almost made me laugh. Kayla sat in the second row, hair curled, pearls on her neck, her legs crossed like nothing had happened. And then Ethan said, "Before I bring the youth up, Elder Greg has something important to share on behalf of the board." People clapped politely. Greg walked up, slow and deliberate. He didn't speak into the mic at first, just looked at Ethan, then down at the stack of papers in his hand. Then he said, "Church family, I need y'all to brace yourselves. What I'm about to read is disturbing, but it's the truth. And our house will not be built on lies." Gasps. The room went still. You could hear the air conditioning kick on. He continued. "These are messages exchanged between our current pastor, Ethan Bryant, and a married member of our congregation, Kayla Richardson." You could hear people inhale so hard it was like the roof had been lifted off. Kayla went pale. Ethan stood up, started walking toward the stage. Greg raised a hand like a traffic cop. "Sit down." And he did. The reading. For the next 5 minutes, Greg read aloud, voice unwavering. "I miss the feel of your skin on mine. Being with you makes me forget I'm supposed to be a man of God. I hate seeing him put his arm around you in public. I want you to be mine fully, forever. If we play it right, we can leave them and still keep the church. God understands love in all forms." It was nuclear. Women were crying. Men were red in the face. A few people stood up and left. One woman muttered, "Oh hell no," and grabbed her purse like it had a timer on it. Kayla was frozen, eyes darting. She tried to get up, but her legs wobbled. Someone behind her whispered, "Shameful." Ethan looked like he'd been hit with a stun gun. His perfect image, his whole persona, was crumbling in real time. And Greg, cool as ice. He wasn't just reading, he was delivering judgment. That old war veteran tone came through, full of righteous fury. "The voice message," Greg then said. "I'll close with this. A voice message Pastor Ethan sent not a month ago." He played it on the mic from a Bluetooth speaker. Ethan's voice came through loud and clear. "I can't believe how easy it is to fool them all. They hang on my every word while I'm hanging on to you. Every Sunday, I watch him nod along like a dumb sheep. But he's losing, Kayla. We're winning. God already forgave us, I feel it. You could have heard a pin drop, no music, no more shuffling, just silence. Ethan's face went blank. His mouth moved, but nothing came out. And then the murmurs started. First a few, then more. Then someone shouted, "You're a disgrace!" And just like that, the dam broke. The fallout. Ethan tried to speak. Kayla was in full panic, grabbing her purse and bolting for the side exit. Someone blocked her. People surrounded Ethan. Someone yelled, "Get out of our church!" Greg stepped in again, this time speaking directly into the mic. As of this moment, Ethan Bryant is removed from all pastoral duties pending a formal investigation. A full congregational vote will be held next Sunday. Until then, I urge y'all to pray for healing and accountability. I stayed seated, didn't smile, didn't gloat. I just watched it all unfold. After years of trusting these people, serving beside them, being played by them, this was the moment they couldn't lie anymore. Kayla finally pushed through the crowd and ran to the parking lot. Ethan was escorted out the back by two of the other elders. Not that he fought it, he was limp, like someone pulled the plug. I walked out into the sunlight and took the deepest breath of my life. One of the older ladies from the church came up and patted my shoulder. "Son, you didn't just expose a man, you exposed a spirit." "Thank you." I nodded, didn't say much. But something in me healed right then. Not everything, but enough to feel like I wasn't crazy. That I wasn't just some emotional husband, making accusations out of jealousy. They did this, and I let their own words tear them down. Mine, and the town chose sides. After the service that Sunday, I didn't go back to the house right away. I needed air. I needed silence. I needed to not hear my name whispered behind every closed door, or see the pity in people's eyes. So I drove. No destination. Just back roads and country lanes, gravel kicking up behind my truck while the radio played songs I couldn't focus on. For the first time in what felt like years, I wasn't wondering what Kayla was hiding or what Ethan might do next. I'd done it. I let the truth speak for itself, and it rang out louder than any sermon Ethan had ever preached. Small towns, remember. We live in one of those towns where everybody either knows you, knows of you, or knows someone who thinks they know your business. So by the time I pulled into a gas station just outside of town, I'd already gotten 2 text messages and a voicemail from people I hadn't spoken to in months. My cousin. "Bro, just heard what happened at River of Grace. You alright?" An old friend from high school. "Hey, saw the clips. Can't believe that was Pastor Ethan. WTF. Yup, clips. Turns out someone had filmed part of the service. Just 5 minutes of it. But it was enough." Greg reading from the messages. The crowd's reaction. Ethan's shocked silence. All of it. By nightfall, it had been shared over 300 times on Facebook. The apology. Kayla finally texted me at 7:42 p.m. "Kayla, I never meant for this to get this far. I'm so sorry. Can we talk?" I didn't respond. Not yet. At 9:11 p.m., she followed up. "Kayla, you embarrassed me in front of our entire community. You didn't even give me a chance to explain." And there it was. Not, "I'm sorry I betrayed you." Not, "I've destroyed our family." Just, "You embarrassed me." She still didn't get it. She still thought this was about me getting even. She had no clue what it felt like to lay awake at night, wondering how long it had been going on, how many people knew, how long I had been the only one in the room who didn't see it. Mason. The next morning, I picked Mason up from my parents. He's too young to understand the complexity of what happened, but he felt the shift. Kids always do. He climbed into the back seat, quiet at first. Then, after a few minutes, he said, "Mummy cried when she came home." I didn't say anything. Did she do something bad? I took a deep breath. "She made a mistake, buddy. A really big one. And now we all have to figure out what to do next." He nodded like that made perfect sense. Sometimes I wish I could still live in that simple world, where things are just right or wrong, where hurt doesn't echo for months. The divide. By Wednesday, the town was a split battlefield. Some people rallied behind me. Older folks, longtime churchgoers, even a few of Kayla's former friends messaged me. I always had a feeling about those two. Takes guts to do what you did, man. Respect. But then, there were the others. The grace and forgiveness crew. "He who is without sin, cast the first stone." It's not Christian to shame people so publicly. You could have handled this in private. I even got an email from one of the younger assistant pastors, basically a wannabe Ethan, asking me to step back from the spotlight and consider the damage you've done to the church's image. I sent back one line. "The damage was done the moment your pastor decided my wife's body was his sanctuary." He didn't reply. Kayla's version. By Friday, Kayla had posted her own version of the story. A Facebook post, of course. 4 paragraphs. Pretty font. Filtered selfie at the top with puffy eyes and a Bible quote in the caption. She wrote about how she'd been emotionally neglected, how she never planned to fall in love, and how spiritual connection can sometimes blur the lines between what's right and what's real. And my favorite part, I pray that anyone judging me never finds themselves in a place where love and shame become indistinguishable. The comments were a mess. Half were supportive. You're so brave for speaking up. We've all made mistakes, girl. Keep your head up. But the other half? Ruthless. Girl, you didn't fall into anything. You dove. You were the pastor's side chick while wearing your wedding ring. Spare us. There's a special hell for folks who hide behind scripture while sinning. I didn't engage. I let people form their own opinions, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't check the post every few hours, watching her try to shape a narrative where she was the one broken and betrayed. It was surreal. Ethan's move, and then of course Ethan made his own statement. He stood outside his house with a local news camera. Small town, remember, our ABC affiliate covers high school games and pancake breakfasts. He wore a plain white shirt, no suit this time. Very humbled. He talked about human weakness and learning through trial. He didn't name Kayla, but said he formed an inappropriate attachment with someone he was counseling and takes full accountability. Then, he closed with, I may have fallen, but my calling remains. I hope to continue preaching wherever God leads me. Translation, I'll be back. He even smiled at the end, like this was just a bump in the road, like he was already planning his comeback. It made my blood boil. This wasn't some fling. He had carried on a full-blown emotional and physical relationship with my wife, while preaching against adultery from the same damn pulpit. He didn't just lie. He weaponized people's trust. The unexpected alley. That Saturday, I got a knock at the door. It was Tanya, one of the church's lead choir members, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who had served under 3 different pastors and never missed a rehearsal. She handed me a manila folder. I thought you should have this, she said. Make sure no one tries to twist the facts. Inside were copies of old church meeting minutes, including budget notes, and a receipt for a private weekend retreat Ethan had charged to the church under leadership development. Same weekend Kayla told me she was on a women's retreat. I almost laughed. Why are you helping me? I asked. She said, because too many women in that church have been blamed for less, while men like Ethan walk away untouched. Then she added, and because I always hated how he looked at her. Closing this chapter. I've filed for separation. Kayla hasn't contested it. Not yet. She's still living with her sister in the next town over. I let her FaceTime Mason once every couple of days. He asks when mummy's coming home. I don't have the answer yet. I've started going to a smaller church outside town, just me and Mason. No expectations, no titles, no fake smiles. Just hymns and peace. And as for the old church, a congregational vote is coming next week. Ethan wants to return. His supporters are lobbying hard. But there are a lot of people like me. People who saw what really happened. People who felt the betrayal in their bones. Let's just say, they're not ready to forgive and forget. The congregation had its say. But so did she. When I say everything changed after that Sunday service, I don't just mean for me. I mean for all of us. The church, the town, even the people who didn't go to River of Grace but watched the video anyway. Everyone had an opinion. And the funny thing about opinions in a small town, they travel faster than facts. But what none of us expected was that Kayla still had something to say. A knock at the door. It was 2 Mondays after the service, just around dinner time when she showed up. No warning, no text, just a knock. Mason was in the living room watching cartoons, and I was halfway through reheating leftover chili. I opened the door, and there she was. She looked wrecked. Not the Instagram cry selfie she posted 2 weeks ago, but real exhaustion. Her eyes were puffy, hair thrown into a loose bun, sweatshirt wrinkled, no makeup. She looked like someone who hadn't been sleeping. Can I come in? She asked softly. I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't want her to, but because I had no idea what she wanted to say that she couldn't text or email or send through a lawyer. Eventually, I nodded and stepped aside. Her pitch. We sat at the kitchen table. She didn't ask for water, didn't look around, just folded her hands and stared down at them. I want to come home, she said. I laughed. Not cruelly, but bitterly, like when you hear a punchline you didn't expect. Just like that? I asked. She looked up, eyes shining. No, not just like that. I know I hurt you. I know I destroyed something, but you said something once, a long time ago. You said we weren't perfect, but we were real. That has to count for something. I didn't reply. I've been in counseling, she added. Twice a week. I stopped seeing Ethan before you even exposed us. You have to believe me on that. Why should I? She blinked. Because it's the truth. But the thing is, truth isn't just about what happened. It's also about what someone let happen, and how they handled the fallout. Kayla, you lied to me for months. You went to church with me, prayed with me. You tucked our son in at night knowing damn well you were sneaking around with the one man who baptized him. She covered her mouth. Her shoulders shook. I thought it was real, she whispered. And there it was again, her version of reality. The deleted messages. I came here to give you something, she finally said, wiping her eyes. She pulled out a small flash drive and slid it across the table. What's that? I backed up all our old texts and his. Every conversation, even the deleted ones. My sister helped me recover them from the iCloud. I thought you should see everything, even if it hurts. I stared at it for a long time. I already read what I needed to read, I said. I know, she said, but I don't want there to be any more secrets between us. We sat in silence again. You know what the worst part is? I asked finally. She looked up. I used to feel safe with you. You were my anchor, my constant. And now? Every memory we ever made feels like it has his fingerprints on it. She let out a shaky breath, then stood up. I'll go, she whispered. But if you change your mind, if you ever want to talk for real, not about the church, not about Ethan, but us, I'll be here. Then she turned and left. I opened the drive. That night, after putting Mason to bed, I sat down at my laptop and stared at the flash drive. I told myself not to. I told myself it wouldn't help, but I clicked it open anyway. There were folders, one labeled me and you, another Ethan, and a third called deleted. I opened the last one. God, it was worse than I imagined. Late night texts about how she missed his voice. Screenshots of their daily Bible study FaceTimes. Photos. Some explicit, some just painfully intimate. But the worst? A voice memo. Less than 10 seconds long. Her whispering. I wish I'd met you before him. 10 seconds that changed everything I thought I still wanted. I didn't sleep that night. The vote. That Sunday, the church held its official vote. It was quiet in the sanctuary. No music. No sermon. Just pews filled with exhausted people, many of them still trying to wrap their heads around what the church had become. Greg stood at the podium and explained the process. Ballots. Anonymous. Simple yes or no. Should Pastor Ethan be reinstated? There were murmurs, but not much else. People wanted to be done with it. People wanted closure. The vote took 30 minutes. The count took 10. Final tally? 67% said no, Ethan wouldn't be returning. When Greg announced it, I swear the room didn't cheer, but there was a collective exhale, like the church had been holding its breath for weeks and finally let it go. Ethan wasn't there. He had been taking a sabbatical, supposedly in Texas with his mentor. But word travels fast. I knew he'd heard. Her side of town. Kayla stayed out of sight after that. Her Facebook post got taken down. Rumor had it she deleted most of her social accounts. She stopped going to her sister's church and started attending a counseling center in the city. I didn't see her around, not at the grocery store, not at school pickups, not even in passing. It was like she evaporated. Part of me was grateful. Another part of me wondered what she was becoming. Whether she was learning from this or just hiding from it. The women she didn't expect. About a week later, I got a message from someone named Veronica. The name didn't ring a bell. It read, "Hi, you don't know me, but I was once part of Ethan's youth group back in 2013. I saw what happened and just wanted to say thank you for speaking up. I wish I had." That message opened the floodgates. Over the next few days, I got 3 more. Different women, different years. All former attendees from churches Ethan had pastored in other states. Some had been of legal age. Others, barely. None of them had proof. At least not the kind that would hold up in court. But the pattern was undeniable. He'd done this before. To young women, lonely women, vulnerable women, and River of Grace had just been his next stage. When Kayla found out, I debated for days whether to tell her. In the end, I forwarded the messages anonymously, not to punish her, but because she deserved to know who he really was, that she wasn't special, that she had been a type. I never got confirmation, but her sister called me the next day and said, she hasn't stopped throwing up since she read them. I didn't say anything back. A quiet afternoon. Last weekend, Mason and I sat out on the porch. Sun was setting. He had a popsicle. I had a beer. He looked up and said, "Are we going to move?" "Why do you ask?" I said. "Mum said sometimes people move when they're really sad." I smiled, ruffled his hair. "We're not moving, buddy. Not yet, anyway." He nodded like that made sense, then added, "Can we get a dog, though?" I laughed. "We'll see." The beginning of the end. It's strange. You think the cheating is the story, the affair, the betrayal, the big reveal. But it's not. The real story is after that. It's what you do when the curtain drops, when the masks come off, when you realize your life isn't going back to normal. And maybe it shouldn't. I don't know if Kayla and I will ever find peace. I don't know if forgiveness is coming, But I do know this. I stopped being the fool in the room. I found my voice. And now, I'm learning how to use it. She wanted redemption. I wanted the truth. It's been a few months since everything exploded. I've gone through more phases than I care to admit. Anger, silence, numbness, hope, guilt, and then back to anger again. You don't realize how many versions of yourself you become after betrayal. You're constantly shedding skin you didn't even know you had. And as for Kayla, she wasn't done with her story. Not by a long shot. The invitation, it came on a Tuesday, a simple white envelope, hand-delivered to my mailbox. No postage, no return address. Inside was a small invitation card with soft, gold-embossed letters. You're invited to attend a private evening of reconciliation and testimony. Location, Unity Counseling Center, Room B, date. This Saturday, time, 6:30 p.m. I stared at it for a long time, then tossed it onto the kitchen counter and left it there. I didn't want testimony. I didn't want a reconciliation service. I wanted my wife back. Or at least, the version of her I thought existed. But that version never really did. Still, something gnawed at me. So when Saturday rolled around, I left Mason with my sister and drove to the address. The testimony, Room B, looked more like a small church than a counseling room. About 30 folding chairs were set up in a semicircle. At the front stood a simple podium and a tall wooden cross. And at the center of it all was Kayla. She stood with a mic in her hand. A small crowd gathered. A few women I recognized from our old church. Her sister. A couple unfamiliar faces. And me hanging near the back, ready to bolt if it got weird. She was reading from notes, hands shaking, eyes puffy, but clear. I once believed that grace was something you earned through good deeds, marriage, image, and quiet obedience. I thought if I smiled hard enough, prayed loud enough, and kept busy with service, it would be enough to drown out the things I hated about myself. But that lie, that deep, rotting lie, led me to betray the person I loved most. Not just in body, but in truth. I lied to him. I let a man use my doubt to build a house of deception. And the part that haunts me most is that I let my son's father carry my shame alone. She paused, looked right at me. So if you're here tonight, whoever you are, please know, this isn't to win you back. This isn't to undo what I did. This is me finally doing the one thing I should have done months ago. Tell the truth. All of it. And then she told it. She told them everything. The affair. The emotional spiral that led to it. Ethan's manipulation. The therapy. The messages from other women. The voicemail from a mother in Mississippi who said her daughter had been led astray by Ethan back in 2011. She told them about how she'd realized she was never special to him. Just another notch in a long line of women he fed God's words to like they were candy-coated poison. People cried. One woman walked out. Another woman in the front row clutched a Bible to her chest like it was her only lifeline. And when Kayla finished, she sat down quietly. No fanfare, no applause, just silence. My turn. I didn't plan to speak. I hadn't even sat with the group. Just stood near the door like an escape artist waiting for a trapdoor to open. But after a few moments, people started looking my way. And then Kayla looked at me, nodded, just once. Not a plea, not a push. Just a choice. So stepped forward. The mic was warm from her hand. I looked around and said, "There's no manual for what happens after something like this. You think you'll scream, or throw a chair, or burn everything down. But most days, you just feel tired." I loved my wife. I still do, in some complicated, broken, painful way. But that love doesn't erase what happened. She told the truth tonight, and I respect the hell out of her for it. But I'm still not coming home to her, because what I learned through all this is that forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting, and healing isn't always a return to what was. I handed the mic back and left. The final reveal, a few weeks later, I got a certified letter from the River of Grace Board. Inside was a summary of an internal investigation they had conducted after Ethan's resignation. They'd quietly reached out to his previous churches, compiled testimonies, and what they found wasn't just moral failure, it was systemic grooming that had been buried under years of theology and charm. 3 churches, 4 confirmed inappropriate relationships, 2 settlements, 1 allegation still pending legal review. And River of Grace? They'd issued a public apology and partnered with a national watchdog group to review their pastoral hiring process. Too little? Too late? Maybe. But at least the curtain had been pulled back. One last meeting. Kayla and I met one more time, this time for real, at a neutral cafe. Just us. No crowd. No podium. We talked about Mason, school stuff, shared custody details. But near the end, she reached across the table. "I'm not asking for a second chance. she said. I'm asking for your peace. Even if we never share a house again, I want to live the kind of life that makes you proud to co-parent with me. I looked at her. I don't hate you, I said honestly. But I don't know that I'll ever trust you again. She nodded, tears welling up. That's fair, she whispered. We parted with a hug, not romantic, not forgiving everything, just human. And now, Mason and I have settled into a rhythm. I started attending a different church across town, one that doesn't care what I wear or who I sit with. Just people showing up, no judgment, no show. I've started journaling again, something I hadn't done since college. It helps. I even took a trip by myself, nothing fancy. Just a cabin by a lake, some firewood, a few good books, and peace. Real, quiet, earned peace. Final thoughts. To anyone reading this who's been through betrayal, especially in a place that was supposed to be sacred church, family marriage, I want to say something. You are not crazy, you are not weak, and you do not owe your healing to the person who broke you. Take your time, speak your truth, and when you're ready, walk. Even if your voice shakes, even if you've never walked alone before, because you're stronger than you think. And sometimes, the most faithful thing you can do is leave the room. The end.